welcome back to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about anything and everything that is related to Gundam, whether that is about like the models, the gunpla, maybe even the music, like the intros and outros, the movies that occasionally bless us in the United States by coming to theater, or lore, characters, concepts, and like fun ideas that we have. Anything and everything that has to do with Gundam, we talk about it. Isn't that right, Brian?
That is right, Isaac. And today we have a fun top 5 episode. Just a good, nice palate cleanser after all that G-Quacks prognostication last week. So
reading between the lines, sort of. We were deciphering because we had like early screenshots and stuff, and it was, we kind of have an idea what it's going to be like.
Yeah, wishing that we were the ones who got to see the film.
Yeah, but soon. Who knows? Yeah,
so today, Isaac, we're doing something I've wanted to do for a long time, and something that I think, as people who used to research Gundam lore back in the early 2000s, this was something we could find easily, and that is our top 5 favorite Gundam emblems.
Man, this almost feels like something that's long overdue, and we probably should have done in year 1 of the podcast,
probably, yeah.
But here we are. A lot of things are shoulda, coulda, woulda right now in the world.
Isaac, when I started to make my list of emblems, I realized that there are an overwhelming number of Gundam emblems, and perhaps we should have broken this out by like smaller categories, like, favorite ace pilot emblem, favorite organization emblem, good faction, bad faction, that kind of thing, because there are a lot of emblems. Did you have that problem too?
Absolutely, Brian. I was going through my compendium of emblems, sigils, logos, and symbols. And I was thinking to myself, well, I'm pretty sure we're strictly focusing on like logos and emblems of actual factions. Because if we go down to like minute squadrons and stuff like that, there's almost too many. And to an extent, for a lot of factions, there's overlap between some of the designs of like their little squadron logo to their whole faction's symbol. So
fair.
For that reason, here's the thing. Okay, giving a little bit away.
Here's the thing. I chose 5 Zeons, and that's it.
I went with like the little. I have sort of almost an honorable mention category.
Yeah.
But that's like the one squadron I thought had the best symbol.
Okay.
So other than that, though, I restricted myself just to major political faction type nation states in Gundam series.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I have no faction nation states.
No faction.
No politicals. I have one faction,
rules.
But I wouldn't say they're sort of political.
In high school, that's why they called you breaking the rules, Brian.
Oh, man. They definitely did not call me that.
Look at that guy. He's off the rails. Oh, the teacher's chasing you up and down the halls. Like, that guy just has no respect for the rules. He loves emblems.
Just can't stop that guy.
He covered the lockers in emblems. Okay, Brian. So you did completely unrestricted, which I fully respect.
Yeah, so maybe we'll do this again down the road. We definitely have to do like worst emblems, because there's a lot of terrible ones out there too.
That might defeat the greatness of today's episode, and then the episode where we restrict it to like squadron/pilot or just governments.
Right, yeah. So maybe we'll do a more like categorized version of this someday.
Some of the emblems are so horrible, you look at them and you think to yourself, this can't be an emblem that like a professional graphic designer made for this highly produced Gundam show.
Well, you have to also think like, I'm sure some of these were made by people who got told to make an emblem and they thought probably no one would ever look at it, and then here we are like 30 years later being like, your emblem sucks, and it was because they drew it on the back of a napkin and turned it in, for like a Super Nintendo game.
What was Toshiro thinking when he designed this emblem 40 years ago?
Yeah, like we're giving the guy crap, but they probably gave him like 7 minutes, on his break to like scribble something, and then here we are being like, it's terrible. Why would you do that?
Or the meeting was like so vague. It was like, all right, well, you're gonna be in charge of the emblem and the mobile switch for this faction. That's like, they don't like the government, but they're on Earth.
Right. Yeah.
And that was all you had to go on. It's like, well, okay.
Anyways, a lot of stuff to mine here.
Sure.
So you said you had some honorable mentions. I have some too. You want to start with your honorable mentions before we go into the top 5?
Oh, sure, yeah, I'd love to. So, tipping my hat maybe a bit to the future episode, but I was looking at like the actual squadron logos.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of strong contenders in there.
Yes.
But I feel like there's one that really it's a home run, Brian.
Yeah.
It's a complete home run out of the park.
Yeah.
For those of you outside the United States, a home run is in baseball. It's where you do a very spectacular feat by hitting a ball with a metal bat, with a wooden bat. Sometimes it's corked, and it goes outside the stadium, and it's very good for your team.
By the way, that was hilarious to me because I don't think Isaac's ever played. I can't say he's even watched baseball before, so I was really hoping he would get the definition correctly.
I think I did.
It doesn't go out of the stadium; it goes over the fence.
How dare you, Brian? I play t-ball. Who do you think you are?
You can't hit a home run in t-ball, so
they called me Bonesaw in soccer for a reason. We'll leave it at that.
Bonesaw's ready.
All right, the winner of the honorable mention is obviously a Zeon faction, but I didn't pick them because they're a Zeon faction. I picked them just because they clearly put a lot of time into their symbol, and that is the Midnight Fenrir Corps. If you pull up their symbol, oh my god, it is intimidating. It's terrifying. The one thing I don't like is that they put their name under it, but that's small potatoes.
Yeah.
I also like that it's symmetrical, but it's this great sort of shadowy nightmare wolf with demon red eyes and sort of like a purpley midnight colored fur. It's great. It's awesome.
It's lovely. I like that one a lot. I agree.
How about you, Brian? You got like a few in your honorable mentions, or?
Yeah, I have 3, 2 of which are from the same game. They're both squadrons. So the game Battlefield Record UC 081, that had 2 factions in it. On the Federation side, it had the Phantom Sweep Corps, and I thought their logo was really cool. It was like a skull that's smoking a cigar. The smoke is a little ghost with like a sad face on it. And I loved that. I thought that was cool.
You know what that sounds like just based on your description? That sounds like the nose art of a bomber. Oh, that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. I love how the little flame at the end, it's like a sad ghastly.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Pokemon.
I love it. And if you can imagine, that's the Federation one. And then they were opposed by the Zeon squad called the Invisible Knights, and I thought theirs was wonderful as well.
Yeah.
2 like rapiers behind one of the theater masks, and I thought that really evoked. There's a monster from D&D called Invisible Stalker. It's also a famous magic card. I feel like it really evokes that invisible thought, so I really like that one. And then I have a third one, Isaac, that I've only ever seen on the wiki. I think it's in Battle Operation 2. It's the logo for Torrington Base in Australia. It's a kangaroo with some boxing gloves in the desert, and I thought that was perfect for Torrington Base because it's in Australia.
Ironically, Torrington Base doesn't do much fighting back at all.
Hey, they did pretty well in the battle of the second battle in Unicorn. That was a good one.
But the good thing about having the boxing gloves, it shows they got knocked out.
Yeah, well,
by essentially one mobile suit.
Yeah, and plus that one's for Australian Isaac too, so I thought he would be proud of that one.
What can I say? The Invisible Knight one, for me, it screams like this is a Kycelia faction. You know, like that clearly looks like a group that'd be under Makuve, because they're kind of, how do I say this?
They're sophisticated.
Yeah, a bit of a dandy, I shall say politely.
They're refined, okay?
I won't say prissy, but they seem like, you know, these are going to be well-dressed guys.
Civilized.
Yeah.
They have standard issue ascots.
They have tea. They don't drink beer. I mean, their symbol's a rapier, you know. That's like kind of a fancy weapon.
Right.
Torrington Base, though, that's absolutely the somewhat comically pathetic symbol I'd expect from the crack officers that lead Torrington Base that got almost wiped out in one night.
I love how we chose like an all-visual episode too. So listeners, I guess you're gonna have to Google all of these symbols.
All visual for a podcast.
All right, it's blue and red. It's got spikes on it.
When we make our studio, though, they'll be able to be projected on the screen as our 2 couches face each other. Okay. Did Did you have anything else in your
No,
honorable
those are
mentions?
my honorable mentions. I didn't want to, like you said, there were
Okay.
so many good faction ones. I kind of wanted to
Yeah.
save them, or like Ace Pilot ones. You know, I was like, oh, I guess I shouldn't put them all on the list. So maybe we'll go through the
No.
other ones another day. But
Sure.
I couldn't believe those were both the Phantom Sweep one and the Invisible Knights. I was like, oh, it was in the same game. Like, that's two really good faction logos in the same thing. Like, usually you'd think you're lucky to get one, you know?
The same designer, I would assume.
Probably, yeah.
That's why they have such a high quality. Like, yeah. Well, this is good because I'm glad I didn't make a dishonorable mention category like I originally planned to, and we'll just in the future do an episode of the ugly emblems.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll call this one top 5 emblems, and then we'll have that one just call it the bottom 5 emblems.
Bottom 5 emblems. Just, they never should have released it with these emblems.
The whole time just Toshiro and his shoddy work from 1992.
Somebody submitted this emblem on a Friday at 4:55.
They really wanted to get home.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I'm supposed to make the emblem for the AUG.
Some of them, I
Let's see.
swear, I was looking at.
Planets.
I was like, oh, it doesn't even look like they drew it, like they painted. It looked like you know, colored pencils and like poorly sharpened ones or something. And I was just like, oh, this doesn't look very good.
All right, we're making you in charge of the Zanscare logo. Z. Oh my god.
Oh. All right. What is
Good.
your number? Do you have any orders to yours?
So, okay. Here's the thing. I have the 5 that I like, and then kind of my honorable mention.
All right.
I wouldn't say even an honorable mention. I'd say it was a trailing 6 that I
Okay.
have somewhat mixed feelings about, but I still wanted to push it forward.
All right. Give me your first one then.
Well, in that case, I'll start with the one that's kind of
Yeah.
I was kind of on the fence about.
Yeah.
And that is the Earth Alliance, also Omni Enforcer, because these symbols are almost identical, really.
Yeah.
So this is from Gundam Seed, of course, the whole Gundam Seed series. And what I really liked about this emblem, really, this flag for the Earth Alliance, is that you could look at this and you would think this faction is kind of cheery and bright. It's hopeful because it's baby blue. It's really positive colors, you know,
Yeah.
growth and watercolors, green. But of course, the Earth Alliance, as we all know, is just the most ruthless, aggressive faction in the Cosmic Era timeline, and they will throw nukes at the drop of a hat against their enemies, or build something horrible like Requiem. For that reason, I thought, you know what, this symbol and logo has its own kind of uniqueness to it, because as cheery it is, the faction behind it is just devastatingly powerful and cruel. So that's my sort of trailing number 6 if we did a top 6, but it didn't quite make the cut because I certainly wouldn't like get a sticker of this or put it on my wall. Well, I might get a sticker or a shirt.
He's like, well, I might get a few. I mean, they did launch a lot of
Only-
nukes.
Only if it says Blue Cosmo. But yeah, that was my trailing number 6. Did you have a trailing 6, or did you want to jump into your bottom 5?
No, I didn't have
Number
trailing
5.
6, but on the Earth Alliance one, I was gonna say that reminds. I look at that and I think it should be like a Greenpeace organization, you know, like an environmental
yeah.
organization. But they really should just use the radiation symbol for their logo based on their actions.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like this symbol, like I look at it and I feel like in like a Legend of Zelda game, this would like give you a power up.
Yeah,
Like it would heal you or something,
Right.
or something like that. In any other RPG, if you saw this, you'd get like positive green or blue mana or something. It's a very positive looking flag that kind of masks their true modus operandi.
It is. I agree. All right, my first one. I'll go with my most boring one first, but I still think it's a really good emblem. And just
Good
because it's popular doesn't mean that it's not good. So, and that is Amuro's personal emblem, the one with the unicorn on it and the A. And I've always thought that this is a good emblem because it sort of seamlessly blends the unicorn motif in with the A. It's simple. It's like instantly recognizable when you know, it's eye-catching. When you see it, you're like, oh, that's Amuro. And also, Isaac, I assume this is kind of public knowledge in the Universal Century, at least as far as pilots go, that that's kind of his logo. So it would scare the crap out of me if during battle you were on the enemy side and you saw that guy walking around with that. You'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna run the other way.
In defense of the Zaku pilots, though, like you shouldn't even have to look at the logo. If you see a Gundam, you know it's not going to go well because
Oh, that's probably true. Yeah.
There's never a ton of Gundams in any war, so if you see a Gundam once, it's not going well for you.
Yeah.
You better hope there's a red mobile suit nearby that can actually deal with the Gundam while you kind of make out your way. You know.
Yeah. Just go back to the base and sit down. I do see, though, a lot of people confused nowadays. Like, when I searched up this logo, most of the threads about it were people being like, I don't understand why it has a unicorn on it. He wasn't in Gundam Unicorn. And I was like, oh, you guys are all, like, too young. He had this logo way before Gundam Unicorn was even a thing. I believe its first appearance was in Char's Counterattack, but, I mean, people are like, oh, his nickname is the White Devil or whatever. But, yeah, Zeon would have called him the White Devil. He was also known as White Unicorn when he got that extra Zeta Gundam, so, and the unicorn is clearly a reference to him being on the White Base, which is a Pegasus ship, you know, sometimes Pegasus is Pegasi, I guess, or sometimes depicted as flying unicorns. So,
Sure.
Come on, people, like, put it together. Don't, like, come on.
Hang on, Brian. Who's this Amuro guy? Kira Yamato was the first Gundam pilot.
He's not Banager.
Okay? Wait a minute. Where's Kira?
I'm going to throw Banager links out the window.
What kind of show is this? You already have a unicorn. I've always liked this symbol. Not in red, though. I feel like on the new, isn't it like a lavender kind of?
In the normal new, it's red, but then on the high new, yeah, it is the purple color that he has.
Okay. I think on the high new, it might look a little different. It's still a unicorn A, but I remember always seeing that logo, and I'm like, that is maybe one of the best pilot logos you can have.
It's very simple, yeah. Especially, you know,
Yeah.
if you look at that and you look at the mid-right Fenrir one, right? They're both cool, but like the Amuro one is much simpler.
Right. It's great. It's personalized. I
Yeah.
like it. I'm surprised you said this was what? Not your bottom one so much, but your too easy, you said?
Yeah, it's what, because I think it's popular, so it's one that everyone
Yeah.
knows and whatnot, you know.
Well, I'm going to follow your lead and say my next easy one. I really don't need to say it, and that's the Zeon symbol. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, I like Zeon, but I mean, it's such a well-balanced and easily recognizable symbol when you
Yep.
see it. Now, again, I'm not going to go too deep into lore or anything like that, or my lack of lore, I should say, but to my knowledge, nobody really knows specifically what this symbol is. I've read briefly that it's not so much the Zeon symbol, but the symbol for Kontolism, which I think under a Zeon Zimdaiken was the belief that, you know, the side should be independent, I believe.
Right, yeah.
But the symbol itself, if you look at it, sometimes I think it's a stylized colony over the Earth, or it might be the Lagrange points if you look at it, because we all know the Lagrange points around Earth are like, you know, somewhat Y-shaped with how they're spread out, L1, L2, L3, etc. So you can kind of infer from it, it might be somewhat descended from the shape of a colony, the shape of the sphere, and then also various Lagrange points sort of intersecting with the circle in different points. But it definitely doesn't look like a Japanese symbol for a Japanese show. It's very eye-catching. The spikiness to it kind of makes it vaguely similar. Vaguely threatening. Nobody likes spikes. Spikes are almost never good in nature. So yeah, that's my easy pick. No surprise to anybody.
No, I like it. I mean, it's a classic. I can't say I've ever thought about what it looks like to me. I guess to me it's always looked like somewhat of a flower.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that makes any sense in context, so it's probably not a flower. But
I can absolutely see Zeon in a speech, you know, referring to like blossoming or blooming of the
Sure,
nation, something
yeah.
like that. And that it absolutely all works together.
it does seem like if you look at the bottom of it, it does kind of look like an arrow pointing down. So you could almost
Yeah.
argue that it's, you know, the colony going away from Earth in the direction of the arrow. So I could, you know, I could make some stuff up about it. But yeah, it's interesting that there is no accepted definition of what the, you know, like why the logo looks the way it does.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that one day in some type of quasi origin series. Who knows?
Yeah, you hear that, Sunrise? You got a hole. Go fill it. All right.
Zing.
My next one, let's see. What should I do for the next one? Okay, my next one is...
It's hard, right?
It
Ranking
is,
them?
yeah. It's hard to rank it. I'll save another one for number 3 because I know there's one on my list
Sure.
that I've never seen before, and you've definitely
Oh.
never seen before, and you're going to be proud of me. So
Whoa.
number 4 for me is one of the Anaheim Electronics logos, but it's the one from Unicorn, not the normal one that we always see. This is the one that looks like the moon, the crescent moon. And I like the normal Anaheim logo. I think the normal Anaheim logo is very good. But I've always liked
Yeah.
this one because this reminds me of that sort of like Disneyland, Tomorrowland, space futurism, and I think it really works with Anaheim being based on the moon,
Yeah.
and it looks, you know, sufficiently spacey. The only downside of this logo is I feel like it's not used as much as the normal Anaheim logo because after Unicorn, Anaheim's pretty irrelevant. We just don't really see them a whole lot.
Yeah. What I really like about this symbol emblem, it's very Zeta or double Zeta to me.
Yes.
Like it seems like it fits exactly in that time period. And this is, as you said, the only Anaheim Electronics logo I've ever seen that features the moon in any way.
Yeah.
The one I think from 0083, it's nice, but it's very like modern day corporate.
It's very industrial, yeah.
Yeah, very simple, blocky letters. I'm sure very easy for a robotic machine to stamp on the side of a product.
Yes.
This is much more stylized, almost like this would be like great as a sticker.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
feel like, yeah, beautiful, and very dynamic shapes to it. You know, the angle of the A and the E.
Yeah, and I agree with you that it looks straight from the Zeta era, and I feel like perhaps imagination was at a high during that time.
Oh, absolutely, with the character designs, the colors, the shapes of mobile suits.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, they were full experimenting. Yeah.
It's not complicated enough to be designed today. Like, I don't think anyone would make it today.
Listeners, I'm not sure if you've picked up from the episodes, but Brian has a very large place in his heart for Anaheim Electronics. Like, he always has. You know, it's his Delaz.
Yeah, there you go. Come visit me on the Levian Rose. Oh.
Well, you'll shoot an engineer that was doing nothing wrong.
That girl deserved better, damn it.
Oh, poor girl. Well, that'll get covered up. Anyways.
What's your next one, Isaac?
Okay, let's see. Oh boy, what do I pick? Okay, I know what I'm going to pick. So, this faction was somewhat short-lived, only around for one season in Iron-Blooded Orphans, but they made a huge impact on me because they had the best flag out of all the superpowers in 00, which, as you remember, had 3 major superpowers that control the 3 space elevators and solar power plants. And this faction is the Human Reform League, which, as you recall, had the worst mobile suits, but they also had the most mobile suits and like the biggest industrial manufacturing capabilities. The Human Reform League, their flag is sort of a rectangular flag shape, normal standard size, but it features a yellow anvil in the center with a red sun over it on a blue sky background, and then halfway across, going horizontally on the lower side, it's all red. So these are very eye-popping colors. And since they're sort of a socialist type government, the implications with the anvil are pretty clear that, you know, they're going to forge people into, you know, a new society. And socialist governments, it's always some type of like, you know, industrial symbol or something for their countries, like hammer and sickle.
Right.
A metal gear, something like that. So in this case, it's an anvil and a sun, I assume. So like a new day. But I always thought it was great. It's the best flag out of all the factions in 00.
Yeah, I think that's a very successful like adaptation of that kind of government.
Yeah.
For like a fictional media universe. I think they did a really good job with that one. I agree. I think it's an effective use of the anvil without, pardon the pun, but like hitting you over the head with it.
Right.
It's eye-catching enough and subtle enough that it looks good.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't have like mother carriers called like the anvils or something, but that would have been maybe too much.
Yeah, and they carried hammers as weapons.
Yeah, they fight with a beam anvil. They just drop it. All right, Brian, what's your next one?
All right, so this is the one that I think you'll be proud of. I've never seen this before, but I saw it and I was like, that's perfect. I love it, and I'm going to put it on the list just because it's cool. As far as I know, it might have only been used by one person or one person's unit. It's from Mobile Suit Variations R, and possibly from a game book published in 1986 called Mobile Suit Gundam Burning Pursuit, and the description of that is, during the closing days of the One-Year War in December 0079, the Iron Scorpion Elite Corps of the Zeon forces, led by Colonel Cranberry, is ordered to destroy their own 18th supply base in Tanzania, Africa, because it has sensitive information that must be hidden from the advancing Earth Federation forces. And at the end, you kind of learn that it was a diversion to complete the solar ray. It was used by, I believe, Colonel Frederick Cranberry was his name, Isaac, and he piloted a Dom cold climate type. The Dom cold climate type had like a light gray, dark gray, and like blue color scheme.
Okay, that's pretty
cool. It had its own logo. And it's a skull with like a Norse helmet because cold climate type, they're cold warriors.
Wow.
With bounty hunter underneath it. And I don't know, I just loved it. I thought it was cool.
I think it's great.
Thematically was on point for a cold climate type suit. Ruthless like the Dom. It kind of also looks the way that it's made. There's an N and a B on the forehead, and then there's some rivets. It looks like it's calling you a noob as it kills you.
Yeah.
Cool. It says bounty hunter underneath. Bounty hunters are cool. What's not to like?
Not much. I mean, what does NB stand for?
Who knows? We'll have to ask Toshiro
Okay.
whatever he was doing in 1986 when he designed it.
I'm going to call it Northern Battalion.
Could be, yeah.
Was his ace name the Bounty Hunter?
Oh, that might be it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's why.
That'd be pretty cool. See,
Yeah.
I love the Dom colors, and I'm not too big on blue, but these look great. And they must look even better in the snow.
Yeah.
This is on the short list, too, of logos that are essentially just, was it a stylus? Yeah, not a stylus, a stenciled. Because it's really just relying on the outline of the image. A lot of logos are color heavy.
Yeah, no, this is simple. I like it.
Was this for his squadron or just him?
There's just not enough info about it, at least
Okay.
on the wiki. I don't know if anyone's translated that. I mean, it's a pretty old book.
I'll say just him. I love it.
Also, the name Colonel Cranberry, that's hilarious. I feel like you would love him because, like, he loves food, clearly.
Wait, that's his nickname or his real?
No,
like
that's his
last
real name, Colonel Cranberry.
Oh my god.
Colonel Frederick Cranberry.
In Crossbone, didn't we have a raspberry?
We do.
Yeah, we did.
Rosemary Raspberry.
Oh my god.
She's
So
got
many-
huge raspberries.
In the future, people just at some point adopted fruit last names. Ah, that's pretty cool. It's almost a football helmet.
It is. It does kind of look like a football helmet, yeah. But yeah, I was thinking,
Which is great for the
Norse,
Dom.
Norse warrior, cold climate type. Doms are bulky, like I would imagine Viking Norse
Yeah.
warriors would be. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. I've never seen it before. Never heard of that game book before. You always learn something new about Gundam when you go on the wiki.
Oh yeah.
All right. What's your next one, Isaac?
Okay. Oh, this is pretty tough, but okay. This symbol at one time, back in the early days of my anime fandom, was my favorite symbol out of all the factions. But now it's kind of fallen off.
Oh, my.
I still think, I don't know. I just appreciate the designs of others ahead of it, but this one's still pretty strong, so I have to mention it here. And this symbol is seen maybe for 3 seconds
Oh,
in the
jeez.
entire season. Yeah, it's seen so briefly in this entire season. I'm not sure why. When we do the rewatch, I'm going to try to look at the mobile suits of this faction to see if they have any of it on their arms or shoulders or something like that. I really doubt it, though. And this is the claw-like, somewhat colony-inspired logo of the Space Revolutionary Army from After-War Gundam X,
Ooh, wow.
which Brian's pulling it up right now for himself to look at.
I am. Wow. That is a cool logo. I like that.
It's cool, but this is the only image, because this is the only time you see the logo.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you what that was had you not
No.
told me what it is.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I would almost describe it as like, it looks like a mix between some type of metal claw-like weapon and then maybe the vague shape of a colony, or the vague stylized representation of a colony. But it's certainly very threatening, but also kind of regal at the same time, because the background's red and the symbol itself is gold. So, sort of quasi-communist type colors, but again, they are the Space Revolutionary Army, so they're all about revolution, just like the communists were. And yeah, it's always stuck with me in Afterward Gundam X of how striking this symbol was, and how little we saw of it.
It kind of reminds me of like a sword hilt, but
Yeah.
without the sword.
Almost like some type of specialized shuriken that could be thrown or something, / grappling claw.
Yeah.
It's very unusual, but yeah, it's all stuck out to me, and I've always thought it was a great, awesome design. It's a pity we never see more of it, but you could say that about anything related to Gundam X.
Now that I look at it closer, it looks like there's 3 pieces. There's a piece in the middle, which is on top of the, I'll say, wings behind it.
Yeah.
And then the claws are behind the wings. I wonder if the middle is supposed to be like a throne or perhaps a road.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
I mean, as great as it looks, if you told me this was like the symbol of like a group of samurai in another anime, I would believe
Right.
you too.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know, or the Golden Tiger Ninja Clan in some ninja anime, I would believe you too. But I always looked at it and thought, especially the 2 long wings on the side and the central body, clearly they took the outline of a colony and they said, we're going to style it up and make a symbol.
That's too good of a symbol to only be on screen for like 3 seconds. They should have done more with that.
Yeah, you definitely should have seen them on their faction's mobile suits, but to my knowledge, you never do.
Yeah, that's a bummer. That's really good. I like that one a lot.
All right, moving along, Brian. What's your next one? Your number 2, I believe.
Yeah, that's my number 2. Okay, so of course, Isaac, of course we were not
Oh,
going to
no.
do this list list without Brian bringing up the Chimera Corps logo, because I think that one's great.
Oh my god. Wow.
The Chimera Corps, as we've mentioned several times, they're Carcelia Zabi's chosen group of ace pilots. The wiki says that it takes its name from the female creature of Lycia mentioned in Greek mythology, which is the chimera. However, the logo actually doesn't have a chimera on it. The logo has a hydra on it because the chimera was a three-headed monster. It breathed fire. It had the body and head of a lion, a goat's head from on its back, and then udders of a goat and a serpent for a tail. That has nothing to do with the actual logo for the Chimera Corps. Again, on that is a hydra. And today we know a lot more about the Chimera Corps due to that recent manga about Johnny Raiden, MSVR, The Return of Johnny Raiden or whatever. We didn't have that back when we first discovered this logo in the early 2000s, and it was even older than that. It's from MSV back in the day. But in that manga, I believe they revealed that the engineering unit of the Chimera Corps was known as Hydra. So that's kind of neat.
Ah, interesting. So is like the lore to almost give credit to their engineers, they put a Hydra on their symbol, or is it more, well, the Japanese designer, when they were making the logo, they thought three heads, and well, three-headed dragon looks better than like the head of a snake, a lion, and a goat.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously it's been a long time since the logo was designed, and then anything that the Return of Johnny Raiden added is obviously somewhat of a retcon, right? Because that's all new.
I see.
It's still very mysterious because, as far as I know, the logo is a hydra, a three-headed hydra, and then below it says Revenge of Ide, IDE. I don't know what Ide is. I don't know what they're getting revenge for. As far as I'm aware, Ide is still never explained anywhere. So I think that is another thing that's missing a backstory. I could come up with something if I had to. But yeah, the Chimera Corps was cool. I've ranted about them before. Most of them had custom Gelgoogs. They were all veteran commanders and ace pilots. They were mostly deployed at Baku. Didn't really do much beyond that. Always been a favorite of mine, even if the logo is a Hydra and the name is Chimera. But I think it looks very villainous. I think you'd agree. It's eye-catching in a good way. And I feel like it reminds me of when you fight the dragon trainer in a Pokemon game. They're always going to be like towards the end of the game, like one of the final bosses, like they're the end game. That's kind of why I like it. Known members, Isaac, that you might know, are Zeon's top ace, Brennus Ox. There's Thomas Kurtz, Uma Lightning, Johnny Raiden, Jacobius Node. Notably, it does not include people like, because I know some people just think, that's all the ace pilots. Not really. It does not include people like Gato or Shin Matsunaga, or Gabby Hazard or Robert Gilliam. People, sometimes they sell model kits for those guys. Those guys were not in the Chimera Corps, so it's not all the ace pilots, it's just some of them.
What I also like about it is it has like a starburst in the middle that's white, and it crosses over a lot of the rest of the logo. So I think that's a pretty cool design choice. It kind of goes into like outside of the little shield and then into the banner. So you don't really see that in most designs.
Yeah, it's almost like you could see someone designing this and not having that, and it wouldn't look quite as cool. I agree. That adds a nice touch.
Man, it's so disappointing that like the word chimera is so cool, but like the animal itself, like it's 2/3 not as cool.
Yeah,
because the head of a goat.
Yeah.
No one's ever been intimidated by a goat.
Just sitting there going, bah, bah.
And my problem with like snakes is like anybody can destroy a snake with like a big rock. The only really intimidating part of chimera is the lion,
right,
and the fire breathing part.
And then you start to think a manticore is more frightening than a chimera, so why not just use a manticore?
But chimera is such a cool word.
You can't say manticore core. Like, that doesn't work.
No.
Hydra Corps sounds like a water brigade.
Yeah.
Chimera Corps just sounds so cool.
Yeah, chimera, just one of my favorite words.
Yeah,
But I digress.
Anyway, okay. Number 2, Isaac.
Number 2 is a very special faction that I feel we need another revisit to. We need to find out what happened after the movie, because there's so much blank space that could be filled in by a great series.
Ooh.
And this faction I'm talking about is the Crossbone Vanguard. Not the Crossbone Vanguard from Crossbone Gundam, the original F91 Crossbone Vanguard. Their symbol is a shield with a sword on it pointing downwards, and then 2 crossbones on top of it. It's a great symbol. It's not given enough credit, I think. It comes off as very regal because of the sword. A little bit of a pirate element, which I always thought was kind of bizarre for what we see in F91, where they're not really carrying themselves as pirates.
Right.
That kind of just shows up later in Crossbone Gundam. But I always felt this symbol was so balanced and cool that it's on the short list of faction symbols that you actually look at it and it tells you what it is without words. crossbones, it's the crossbone vanguard. That's it. It's a very beautiful symbol, too. The colors are very warm. It's gold and red. There's some sort of leafery, festooned around the border. I like that the sword is kind of unique, too, in that it's not just a regular cross T-shaped sword. It's got sort of a handguard on it.
Yes.
So that was an interesting design choice. It always looks great each time I see it. One of the few good things from F91.
Yeah, I almost put that one on my list. I agree. I think that's a great symbol. I especially like there's no words on it because some of the symbols are too wordy. And the one in F91, I believe, does not have the leafery. I think the one with the leafery is the one from Crossbone Gundam. Although I like both of them, so they're both good. I'm just noticing now, Isaac, that in some of the symbols, I'm not sure which one is right. In some of the symbols, the sword is going between the bones, and some of the symbols, the sword is behind the bones. That's interesting. I didn't notice that before.
It seemed like the symbol was pretty generalized. You could do some variations to it. I think because of how it's drawn and it's kind of detailed, that was almost inevitable compared to like Zeon, where their symbol is really just a silhouette if you think about it. So you can't really mess up a silhouette as much as where to put a sword. Yeah, sometimes it goes between the bones, sometimes it's behind the bones. There's also a third one that's like a skull with snakes that I never really...
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's technically serpentine tack-on, whatever that is. But I never really considered that part of the main Crossbone Vanguard. Because when you think of Crossbone Vanguard, it's the sword and the bones. That's really all it comes down to.
Well, that's the recipe for success. You don't need anything else.
Yeah. Keep your logo simple and recognizable. All right, Brian. What is your number one, Brian?
All right, my choice for best logo. You're going to laugh because this is obvious. I think this is the most effective logo. And it is the White Dingo Team logo.
Oh, wow.
The White Dingo Team they were the protagonists of the Mobile Suit Gundam side story 0079 Rise from the Ashes game for Dreamcast. I believe that their story was remade in Mobile Suit Gundam side story Missing Link for PS3. There was also a manga adaptation in Mobile Suit Gundam Ground Zero Rise from the Ashes, and there was a novel adaptation called Gundam Side Story At the Site of the Fallen Colony. It's basically a white dingo with the Earth Federation cross in its mouth, like a side profile view, and it's like growling at you, Isaac. And I think that's perfect. It's perfect because they were part of the Federation's Australian forces sent to take back Australia late in the war. They were led by Master Pierce Rayer, and that was the one that we laughed at, Isaac, because they fought to stop that bioweapon called Astaroth, which was like the plant that would grow out of control and cover the Earth.
Oh my God! Don't remind me.
But the logo,
how dare you?
The logo is great. It's not over-designed. The dingo is on point for Australia. It's got a creative use of the logo with the cross in the dingo's mouth. Like it's not just giving you the cross and the dingo. It's having the dog do something with the cross in a way that makes sense for what a dingo would do, and that's eat things. It's used on great suits, the Gym Sniper 2 particularly, in the White Dingo color scheme. Pleasing to look at, and it's associated with a good name like the White Dingo. Like if you have a cool logo but a bad name, that's crappy. But if, in this case, you have a cool logo, a cool name, and the logo relates to the name, so I think they nailed it. It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Wow. I have a lot to say about this logo. Well, at least 3 things to say about this symbol. First, let me say, once again, continuing the Federation tradition of this symbol could essentially be the emblem of nose art on any bomber or fighter plane from World War II for the Allies, right?
Oh, yeah, and I think that's another mark of its success. Like, I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see someone using it.
It was designed to be great as like a profile.
Yes.
I also like to say that this is on the very short list of Federation squadron symbols, squadron emblems, that have the naval nautical cross of the Federation on it. Mm-hmm. Because almost none of them feature it. You know, Zeon, I think the black tri-stars, you can obviously tell that's almost the Zeonic symbol.
Right.
The Southern Cross team, almost literally the Zeon symbol with just some crosses on it. This is the only Federation one, I think, that features a Federation symbol, the nautical four-pointed cross that the Federation always uses for their forces. So that's cool. And it also says, Earth Federation Army Australia. So I thought that was pretty cool. Most of the time, a lot of the wording doesn't really specify too much. It's usually a bit more wider reaching, like, Earth forces or something like that. This is, okay, we're Australia. Well, we're staying local, boys. But I like it. Very cool.
And I like how the words, they're in the ribbon. I think the ribbon really ties it all together, like that rug from Big Lebowski. I think it really just ties the logo together. So.
Ironically, the words White Dingo are in red.
That's true. Good point.
If I could change anything, I'd swap the red in Earth Federation Army Australia. I'd swap the two colors.
Yeah, I could see that. That's fair.
Australianites, if you're listening, are there white dingoes in Australia? Or I thought dingoes were just sort of a patchwork of colors. Maybe they are white dingoes in Australia.
Maybe. I bet Australian Isaac has one as a pet.
And its name is Jim.
Yeah, there you go.
Zing.
That's brilliant.
All right. Now, this might be a bit of a stunner. Well, actually, it won't be when we watch this series. But Brian, my tastes have evolved over time.
Oh, wow.
Okay, they've grown. And now, this is a symbol I just really like when I think about it. I put it to the top of my list because it's very well designed. It's from a design period that we've already mentioned in this episode. It's got like dynamic motion to it, and it's on the short list of asymmetrical designs for major factions. This is an asymmetrical design, but boy, did they knock it out of the park when they made it. And this symbol is the bird of prey of the Titans, Brian. It is a golden bird with like a navy blue eye and a navy blue star in the middle. It's got swept wings. Its head and its beak are facing towards the left. The wings are sweeping towards the right. It's just got such dynamic power to it. Just a flying eagle soaring past you towards your left.
Flying eagle of fascism.
Or a hawk or something. Just a generic bird of prey. But yeah, I always thought it was just a very powerful symbol. Not quite detailed enough to be like the emblem of a squadron. Not quite grand enough to be like a symbol of a whole nation state. But definitely a very powerful faction symbol in its own right. And it's got a lot of weight to it. You recognize it when you see it.
Oh, absolutely. I thought about putting the Titans on my list as well for exactly that reason. I think this nails the goal of creating like fascist version of the good guys. You know, like for example, if the Justice League went bad, I could see them using a logo like this.
Definitely. The colors too. It's not relying on black or red to be threatening. Instead, it's well, actually, I think the Federation, the Titans flag is kind of a maroon, maybe.
They have like red versions, I think, but the main one is blue. I agree.
Yeah, you see this bird slapped on like the blue logos or other places. It's got a majestic quality to it, but at the end of the day, man, the Titans are bad.
Yes, absolutely.
Going off what you said, Brian, I'm adding that to my headcanon that since Kolony and Jamatov were clearly baking up this plot for years, they had plenty of time to go through like multiple design teams to get a great logo.
They would have spent a lot of time thinking, what symbol can we get people to buy off on? And I could totally see that symbol being used in the real world.
Yeah, definitely. Man, can't wait to see it again in a rewatch.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Probably coming up soon. By the way, there was a lot of... Did you see all the logos? I'm sure you did in your search for all the Titans test team logos with all the little bunnies.
No.
You didn't see any of these? There's so many of them. Yeah. It's all from Advance of Zeta. There's like the Titans test team. All their logos are different bunnies logos. There's so many.
Oh my god.
There were so many. I was going to choose one, but I was like, I have no idea what any of these are, and there's so many of them. It's overwhelming.
Brian, why did they go with bunnies except for like one squadron?
I don't know. There's like cute bunnies, armored bunnies, like sexy bunnies, like bat bunnies, princess bunnies, angel bunnies. There's so many bunnies. I know there's a lot of fans of Advance of Zeta out there, so if you could explain to us, people who have never read Advance of Zeta, why there are so many Titans test team logos, that would be helpful to me.
How did Jamatov let this happen?
I'm going to say he didn't have much say.
It might have been beneath his notice because they're like the test teams, I assume.
Yeah.
Right? So he was like, well, the policies for the bird of prey really only apply to combat teams.
They're like, oh, Jamatov, those kids with the bunnies, they got another logo. He's like, just leave them alone. Don't put the bunnies on the flag.
I hope they die during testing.
Send them on dangerous missions.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow. It doesn't even seem like the same universe at this point. That seems like a Pokemon meets Gundam.
I mean, ironically, all the advances of Zeta designs are really complicated and they look really cool, like the hazel and all that. Uh-huh. So maybe that's part of the idea that's a contrasting to the very serious designs. So we'll have to read it one day.
They'll be covered in blood they get covered in blood and gore by the end of the series.
All right, well, that was a pretty good list. I think we had a lot of variety there, no real overlap. So yeah, maybe we'll revisit this with some bottom 5 logos, and then maybe some more specific like Ace Pilot, Faction, etc. type things.
Yeah, maybe we will. I'm very curious to see what we dig up for the pilots, because there's so many Ace Pilots. The number of Ace Pilots It's almost as bad as like the number of Gundams that were actually around in the 1 Year War. It keeps increasing. They had like massive roles in the 1 Year War that we never heard about, and it turns out they have like awesome logos.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta have a cool logo, right? Even Mu has its own logo from C. Did you see that one? The Hawk of Endymion?
No, let me pull it up. Oh God, Moo.
It's pretty good. I thought it was decent. I just wish it didn't have the whole name on it and it was just the hawk.
That also kind of looks like a Pokemon. Volturno!
Volturno.
I choose you!
Every time he kills someone, the hawk scream has to play. He has to have speakers.
This looks like a pretty sinister bird for Moo.
It does. Maybe that's why you don't see it too much in the show.
No, they meant to give it to a villain. It's still pretty cool, though.
Yeah. But listeners, let us know your top 5 logos from whether they're organizations, political factions, civilian factions, ace pilots, pilot teams, etc. Give us your list. And also let us know what some of the worst ones are so that we can have some material to draw from for when we do our bottom 5 logos.
Yeah, definitely. And is there an emblem that you've designed that maybe you can drop in the link?
Ooh.
Drop in a link to your emblem logo, symbol for a faction or a squadron, or your own ace version of yourself in any Gundam setting, series, or universe.
I like it. Yeah, I want to see those for sure.
Do it.
Definitely.
Message it.
All right, Isaac, take us away.
All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Zeon.
Good night, everybody.